what I'm going to talk about now is really just, let me ask you, if you could have an opportunity to take a holiday, who needs a holiday first of all? Yeah, okay, a few of us. Yeah. And really also make a difference. Who's interested in making a difference in the world in some way? Who is making a difference in the world? Keep your hand up. Wonderful. Yes, you are. Okay. And that's the type of people I like to hang around, and that's the type of women I like to bring together, because I'll give you a bit of background about who I am. So I've came from the corporate world, 10 years ago. I was a project manager for a major global conglomerate. Ended up in hospital for 2 months with a brain surgery. Who doesn't know my story? Because I don't want to tell you the story. Okay, you don't know. Okay, cool. And I was climbing the ladder of success rapidly and doing what my parents told me to do. Go make some money, go get married, have kids, your life's great, right? So I was following that path because that's what you do. You know, you come out of university and you study hard, you go and make a living. So in 2006, I ended up one day at work on the computer, because that's the type of work I was doing, and I ended up having, if you could visualize looking at me right now, but instantly you're seeing 3 versions of me, all right? This is what was happening in front of my screen. And at the same time, I felt like someone was smashing my head with a baseball bat, you know, so not the most fun day in the world. And then literally 2 weeks later, I was on an operating theatre in Liverpool Hospital, and 5 hours later, basically they drilled a hole in my brain, took out a piece of my brain matter, and then spent the next 2 months trying to work out what the heck just happened. And I was trying to work out what the heck just happened, right? I've got goosebumps telling this story because the realization I had was my life was literally on the line, okay? And so when I spent the time in hospital, I was quite depressed. I was confined to, who's been in hospital for a long amount of time? Yeah, okay. Di will tell a story very shortly that's remarkable. And for me, my greatest value is freedom, okay? Who likes to travel and adventure and do, you know, really push themselves, right? So we all connect in that way. And if that's something that's valuable to you and that's taken away from you, and you're confined to a bed and nurses wake you up at 4 in the morning and stick needles into you, okay, that's like, to me, that's prison, without going to prison, right? So then I started to question, well, why am I here? What is the point? You know, why me, right? And that was a big part of my journey. I arrived at this question, and what came out of it was, well, there's got to be more to life than just making money and following a life that everyone else seems to be trying to follow. And so I'll fast forward 6 years, so to now, and then I basically launched a couple of businesses, and then started working in a coaching capacity, helping, first of all, business owners, and then what I was they thought it was strategy, so they were coming to me for marketing advice, and I was thinking, oh, that's cool. And then what started to happen was I would give them advice and they wouldn't implement, all right? They would pay me a lot of money, but they wouldn't do anything with it, right? So then I started to question, well, what's going on? And what it came down to was this thing called identity and belief. I'm not good enough. Who said that to themselves before? Right, okay. So then my work became more about helping people, and specifically women, to connect to that part of themselves, to their vision and their purpose and their heart. And I had my own journey of going through that, because I remember 2007, I went through a process, and the criticism to me at that point in time was, Anf, you're very good at being intellectual, but you can't connect or express your emotion, all right? And guess who told me that? It was a woman, all right? And so I started to work on this within myself. In 2009, my mother passed away. I was living in Canada at the time. And let me share you this story. So who knows where this is? Yeah, Audie knows because she's from Laos. Okay, Di knows where it is. Okay, so has anyone traveled there before? Beautiful. Okay, I want to hear your stories. So Laos is a small landlocked country in the middle of the Southeast Asia. Our neighbours are Vietnam, Thailand underneath, and then Cambodia connected to it, China up the north, and Burma to the side, or Myanmar. A big part of my journey has been in 2012, I moved to Laos after my mum passed away because I was on this journey to discover who my family were. Right? I grew up in Australia, and most of my life I disconnected from the culture as well as my family because I felt like, well, am I Australian or am I Lao? So this is a conflict that I was battling within myself. And so I decided I'm going to be an Aussie. You know, I'm eating Aussie, like I'm eating meat pies. I'm playing cricket and these things. Lao people don't do that. Okay. But then I learned this. So this is a volunteer teacher who Ashley, she basically shared that what she loves is the Lao culture, the gentleness of the culture. We have a phrase, it's Bo Pen Yang. Can you say Bo Pen Yang? Beautiful, you're all fluent in Lao now. And it means no worries, right? Like Hakuna Matata, okay? And it's a phrase, once you get to Lao, we live by that, right? And it can, for those of you who are like constantly on timetables and schedules and get stuff done, that's gonna piss you off big time, right? But we learn to embrace that. It's an amazing part of the culture. This was a piece on the newspaper last year. Imagine this, the city that's known to be the place with no worries. Is that a cool place to visit? Mm-hmm. Right. And that's why I love that city. Okay, so tell me, in 1979, that's me. Trying to do my best Bruce Lee impersonation. And my mum and my dad, we had just crossed the border from Vientiane into, across the Thai border, and we were in a refugee camp for 6 months. Okay. For those who are not up on the history, that was during the time of the Vietnam War, okay, and a lot of the Lao people were escaping, right? Even though Lao was officially not part of the war, what happened was the US went and dropped a ton of bombs on the northern part of Laos for 1 year, and consequently Laos is the most bombed place on the planet, okay? And as a result, it also has the most number of amputees in the world, okay? And the bombs are still active. There's still mines out there that kids go and play with, and yeah. 2001, I lived the dream. Actually, I lived my mum's dream. I graduated from uni. And that was a very proud moment, all right? So this little boy basically proved that he got some brains, okay? And then, so I'm going back to this woman, right? Sexy lady from the 70s, in a flowing gown and whatnot. I learned a lot from my mother. She's the inspiration for all the work that I do now. And when I put together this slide, I was literally in tears, because to lose someone who gave you so much and continues to give you so much, it is really, yeah, it touches my heart. And everything that she gave to me, generosity, all the goodness in the world, caring for other people, thinking of others first before myself, all these values that she instilled into me, this is how I live my life, and this is why I am the way I am today, and why I started this project. So 2012, these are my kids. I lived in Vientiane for about 10 months, volunteered at a school called the Sunshine School, right? And then worked with these kids. I was their English teacher, but I think they taught me a lot more than I taught them in that time. And I really started to connect with the importance of literacy and the importance of reading and education. And I know what that's done for me in my life, so now I start to work with children to help them in their lives, right? This is a quote from Jackie Onassis. She said, "There are many little ways to enlarge your child's world. Love of books is the best of all." Okay, and all of you are educated and wonderful, so you understand the importance of this. Then I met a man by the name of Kamla Panyasuk in the northern part of Laos, in Luang Prabang. He runs a non-profit called Big Brother Mouse, and I volunteered at his space in Luang Prabang. And basically, this is his vision, to have every 3-year-old in the country reading to the family after a meal. Okay, the literacy rates in Laos are quite terrible. They're good in the cities, but when you go out into rural areas, there's a major problem. And I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. So the main thing that they identified was with non-profits or charities, what happens is they go into a country like a developing nation like this, and they start to build schools, right? But throwing money at walls doesn't solve a problem when you don't have any teachers, or the teachers aren't trained to help the kids learn how to read or to learn how to do math and these type of things. So volunteers and people who are in there temporarily will leave, because they don't get paid enough money to stay. And then the other issue is the resources. There aren't books, right? So there are charities that, for example, provide Australian English language books from here in the US and in Europe, and French books, but Lao kids don't speak or read those languages, okay? So Big Brother Mouse started to publish Lao books for kids and stories written for kids by young Lao people, okay? So it's the first publishing house in the country to start doing this. This is a social enterprise, right? I won't go through all the numbers, but basically how they deliver their results is through what they call book parties. So imagine all of us jump on a bus tomorrow and we go out into a rural village with a whole stack of books that we've paid for and sponsored, and then we go and give those to the teachers and to the kids, and then we start reading with the kids. So that's called a book party, and they run those a couple of times every month based on how much sponsorship they get, right? So a common question I get is, why am I one man standing in a room of 30 women, right? And why is this a Warrior Women Mastermind retreat and I'm like a guy, okay? Well, I didn't have a sex change, no. No, well, it does come back to my mother being the inspiration. And I'm a mama's boy, I'll be honest. A deeper connection with my mother than I ever had with my father. My father was a soldier of war. And so I grew up with a man that was basically a wall, right? No emotion, never talk to your kids about any problems that you're having. And that's also, a cultural thing too. I mean, Audie might be able to relate to this. And therefore, my mum was the person I connected to the best, right? And as I mentioned earlier, I coach women. It's funny. I started coaching men, and then they were like sick of me, and then the women started to come and talk to me. And this is the universe doing what it does, okay? Here are a couple of things that I've heard over time through my clients and through people I talk to, and it may resonate with some of you, it may not. So something like, I'm just going through the motions at work and feeling totally bored, misplaced, or even apathetic, right? All I hear about is how much money the company needs to make, right? Less about what impact it's making in the world. I look around and I'm surrounded by computers and walls and people who are unhappy and unhealthy. And then I'm expected to be bubbly and vibrant all the time. I feel that one. And I feel constant pressure to be perfect. It looks like I've got it all under control. So from the outside, I look fantastic. It's all happening. But deep down inside, I'm a mess. I'm getting some nods that can relate to some of these messages. So let me just share you the three frustrations that I've encountered with people that I've interviewed and people that I've coached in the past. The first one is not enough time. Who understands this one? Everybody, right? So you're basically living in a world, in a society that requires and demands more of you, that wants you to get shit done, mind my language, but then gives you no time to do it. Okay? This is the societal problem. It's not limited to just Sydney or Australia. It happens in the US, in Canada. I lived in Canada for 3 years. And now it's starting to happen to countries like Laos and Vietnam, and it's there too, right? It's an epidemic. Not enough energy. How about this one? I'm so tired after work, I don't have any energy left to do anything. Weekends, when I'm meant to be relaxing, are also busy. Who feels that one? Yeah, quite a few of you. And this one's one that I really connect to, and a lack of support, network and resources, and feeling like I'm isolated or I'm alone and I'm invisible. I'm one woman or one man fighting the world on my own. All right, I'm getting some nods to this one. And that's a tough mental and emotional space to be in. Okay, so the dangers of continuing your life in that way, burnout. Who's burnt out already? Yeah, a few of us, right? This is something that it's kind of, what's the word? I live on the premise that I'm dying, all right? So for me, because of my surgery and because my mum passed away, she was 54 when she died, right? So I try not to take for granted the time that we have because we don't know when our time is up, all right? So why waste your time burning out instead of living? Wasting time and energy, okay? And then this is a huge one for a lot of people, not making the impact that you really want to be making, right? If you're in this room, I would fathom, or I would assume, and I could be wrong, that you've already connected and asked those questions within yourself. And your question is why and how? How do I do these things? Okay, so all of this, taking all that and putting it all together, this year we are taking a group of women to Laos. This is my solution to all those problems and challenges, right?